Hi everyone, this is just a short introduction to Module 4, which you'll see is all about active reading and listening. In particular, it's looking at two really important skills, note-taking and paraphrasing. So paraphrasing is learning how to put things, the ideas of others, into your own words, and you'll appreciate that's really important to avoid plagiarism. And note-taking is actually really closely related to that skill. So these are very important areas of your learning in steps, and the sorts of strategies that you learn here can well help you in your undergrad studies as well. And this will tie in very nicely with Module 5, which is all about developing your research skills even further. So you can see that we've sort of changed gears a little bit here. It's not so much about the inward looking, about self-reflection. Although having said that, we will introduce you to lots of different approaches, lots of different techniques, and always there will be that final question of, okay, what works best for you? And some of what you've learned about yourself so far in prep skills is going to relate in this context as well in terms of your learning preferences. So when we talk about active reading and listening, I guess active is the key word there, in being actively engaged, working out what strategies are going to be most effective for you. You'll be the receivers of lots of information at university, whether it's sitting in a lecture or a tutorial and listening to someone, whether you're watching lecture recordings online or videos online. One way to be more active as a learner is to take notes, and there are some strategies that you can use to do that more effectively. The other really important aspect of this is, of course, in the research context. So this is where you need to get used to how you can read sometimes quite complex pieces of text. What are the ways of going about that? Sometimes beginner researchers think that they have to read every word of something to do it justice, and of course you just don't have time to do that as a university student. So you have to get a bit clever about how you approach things. And the note-taking skills that you learn are going to help you be more effective with your paraphrasing skills. So as with all of the modules, we ask you to start with the information in your study guide. So if you go to Module 4 there, you'll see a lot of this module can be completed from just the study guide, but you will also need your cultural textbook, and you'll certainly need to go on to Moodle. So let's just have a quick look at the resources here. There is, of course, the study guide module available for you, the videos. Don't forget to check out the lecture recording. Now these resources here all pertain to the study guide activities. These aren't all the activities, but these are just some of the key ones and ones for which you might need some extra resources. Now, I do urge you to have a close look at this activity about scanning a journal article. Now, journal articles are a big deal at university. You will need to be able to use them for your research, but they can be a bit intimidating. Sometimes the language is quite dense, they're quite long, they seem quite complex. So we try to give you a few tips for how to read those, and certainly point out some of the key aspects of them. Just one hint, and that is that a good way to get an overview of a journal article is to read the abstract. And that is like a really short summary or overview of the whole of the article. So that activity there is going to be useful as an introduction to journal articles. We also give you some practice in listening to clips, to information presented to you in that form. So there's two clips there. One is just audio, one has vision as well. They're both about the brain, and we will look at some of these concepts in more depth later on in prep skills. So hopefully you find those interesting, and it's just a chance for you to experiment with different techniques that we're learning. Of course, the good thing about digital recordings is that you can always pause them if you really need to, but try not to do too much of that. Just see how much you can get down, or what key parts you can record through listening. And this is a really important resource. We talk about Notes TM as a strategy, and it's one that you will use in your academic writing subjects as well. So we do a little bit of practice with that, and that's used in the context of when you are reading something and taking notes from that written source of information. There are other resources here too that you might find useful. Now, this one here is about how to use a thesaurus. Sometimes students think that this is going to solve all their problems about paraphrasing, but it really doesn't. You have to be careful with the way that you do use a thesaurus. So that's worth a read. We try to touch on that in Module 4 as well. And this is also a clip that you might find useful with a few more tips about how to paraphrase. Then there's the discussion forum. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this module, what you've learnt, what some of the challenges might be for you, or tips that you've learnt along the way, anything to do with note-taking or paraphrasing. And then there's the final checklist so that you know that you're keeping up with everything. So you will notice that there's no learning portfolio questions that pertain to this module, and that's where we have changed gears a little bit there too. The assessment for modules 4 and 5 will be via quiz 2, so don't forget to check that out in the assessment block, but please don't even think about starting that until you've completed both modules 4 and 5 really thoroughly. And there is actually that connection between modules 4 and 5 where we're looking at your research skills and some of the techniques that you can use to help you with your research. So all the very best. Really hope that you find that useful, that you get some practice that's going to be really helpful to you, not just in your academic writing subjects, but in your undergrad studies as well. So good luck with Module 4.